Good morning, students. Today we are going to do chapter 2. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. This is chapter number 2 from our NCERT book Hornbill. The writers are Gordon Cook and Alan East. Title is extremely important. We are not afraid to die. Okay? It means the spirit of never say die spirit should be there in everyone. We should not be afraid. But at the same time, the subtitle says, if we can all be together. So the chapter wants to show the spirit of unity also at the same time. If you are united, if you are together, then there is no reason to be afraid. So this very theme has been exemplified by a family here. Right? The chapter deals with a family. Now that family decides to go for a sea journey, for a sea voyage. It would be a round the world voyage. Okay? They were inspired by Captain James Cook, who had undertaken the same journey some 200 years earlier. Okay, so now they wanted to duplicate that journey. They wanted to do the same journey which had been once done by Captain James Cook. Okay, but during the journey they had to go through many obstacles. The worst obstacle being weather. It became worse and worse. They had to face an atrocious weather and their boat was completely wrecked. It was broken. It was not in a condition to sail smoothly. Now, the chapter wants to show that how this particular family held together in such atrocious situation. Okay, so let's come to the text itself. Then I will explain to you the theme also, what the chapter wants to tell you, which must be more or less clear to you. Fine, through this title itself, the theme also must be clear to you. The chapter wants to show you that if you are together, if you are a united family, then there is nobody and there is nothing which can make you afraid. Okay? Now, in July 1976, my wife, Mary, son, Jonathan, 6 years old son, daughter, Suzanne, 7 years old, and I set sail from Plymouth, England. Set sail means they started their journey from Plymouth, England, to duplicate the round the world voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. So this is what I was telling you when I was describing you the title. The whole family, this 4 people, the main captain, his wife Mary, his son Jonathan, his daughter Suzanne, they set sail from Plymouth, England. They started their journey from England, Plymouth. Now their aim was to duplicate the voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. For the longest time, Mary and I, a 37-year-old businessman. Now he introduces himself that he is a 37-year-old businessman. He and his wife had dreamt of sailing in the wake of the famous explorer. Who is this famous explorer? In whose memory they are doing it? It is Captain James Cook. So it was a long cherished dream for the whole family, especially for the captain and his wife, that they should duplicate this journey. And for the past 16 years, we had spent all our leisure time honing our seafaring skills. To hone up means to perfect, to make it better and better with repeated practice. So now, in order to complete that journey, they had to be completely perfect with the seafaring skills. Okay, so they honed up for many years. They practiced for many years in order to become perfect at seafaring. Now, our boat, Wave Walker, it was a 23-meter, 30-ton wooden hulled beauty. The weight was 30 ton, 23-meter long. It had been professionally built. Name of the boat was Wave Walker, which had been professionally built in order to complete this particular journey. It would be historical journey for them. 1, because it had been a long cherished dream for them. Number 2, because they had been duplicating it in the wake of, in the memory of the captain, whose name was Captain James Cook. And we had spent months fitting it out and testing it in the roughest weather we could find. Okay, so in order to on up, they had taken that boat repeatedly into the sea in order to check whether the boat is also sustainable, whether it will be able to sustain the rough weather or not. The first leg of our planned 3-year 1,05,000 kilometer journey passed pleasantly. Okay, so the initial phase, first leg was to reach where? Was to reach from Plymouth, England to Africa, Cape Town. So it had been how much kilometer journey? 1,05,000 kilometer, which had passed very pleasantly as we sailed down the west coast of Africa to Cape Town. There, before heading east, we took on 2 crewmen. Crewmen means 2 fellow crew people who had been the members of the same crew. They were an American person, Larry Vigil, and a Swiss person, Herb Siegler. Why these 2 people were added? Because they had been perfect in seafaring, and the whole family was a new one. They were quite uncouth and not very skilled at it. That is why they had added 2 people who were quite skilled. One was an American, Larry Vigil, and the other was a Swiss person. His name was Herb Siegler, to help us tackle one of the roughest seas, the Southern Indian Ocean. Right? Their attempt was to help them. They wanted them to be a part of their crew because they wanted that these people should help them deal with the roughest sea in the world, that is the Southern Indian Ocean, which they had to enter very, very soon because they are about to reach Africa. Now I turn on to the next page. On our second day out of Cape Town, we began to encounter strong gales. Strong winds started coming up. They encountered means they faced. For the next few weeks, they blew continuously. The gales flew and flew for the next coming weeks. Gales did not worry me, but the size of the waves was alarming. It was huge, up to 15 meters as high as our main mast. What is the mast? Now your job is to study the parts of the ship. Okay, because I cannot show you them here, so you have to search a bit about them. Mast is that pole, bache, which is there in the middle of any ship on which sails are hung. You must have seen that boat sometimes, must have seen somewhere. Just imagine the boat having a pole on which various long, sails are hung in order to make the boat moving, right? If you have not seen them, please check somewhere on the net, or you may even ask your parents to describe you what a mast is. December 25 found us 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. Right? Now they were proceeding even farther from Cape Town. They had covered 3,500 kilometers journey from Cape Town towards the east, despite atrocious weather. Atrocious means extremely rough, weird. We had a wonderful holiday complete with a Christmas tree. They enjoyed their Christmas holiday on the boat only, on Wave Walker. New Year's Day saw no improvement in the weather, but we reasoned that it had to change soon. Reasoned means they put their logic. They thought that soon it is going to change the weather. And it did change, but for the worse. At dawn on January 2. Dawn means early morning. The waves were gigantic, extremely high. Gigantic means huge. We were sailing with only one small storm jib, and we were still making 8 knots. Knots is the unit in which the speed of the boat is measured. Speed of the ship is measured. So they were at a very high speed, and they were only left with one strong jib. What is a jib, beta? It's a waterproof covering which keeps away the water from the boat. As the ship rose to the top of each wave, we could see endless, enormous seas rolling towards us. Right, so the ship was going on the top of each wave. They could see the whole sea rolling towards them. And the screaming of the wind and the spray was painful to the ears. The sound of the waves was so, the waves were so high, as you have just seen, almost 15 meters. Naturally, they must be creating a very strong sound also, which was very painful for them to hear. To slow the boat down, we dropped the storm jib. So they took off certain, masts, a jib also, so that the speed of the boat should be slow, right? Naturally, in such a strong, windy weather, the sails would have broken, the sails would have torn. That is why they took off certain sails as well as the storm jib. in order to slow down the speed of the boat. These are also called the initial precautions taken by the crew people. What did they do? Number one, they slow the boat down, they dropped down the storm jet. Lashed a heavy mooring rope across the loop across the stern. Stern is the back part of the ship. Then we double lashed everything. Went through our life raft drill. Drill is a practice which is taught to the crew people in case they drown, what are the steps they have to take. So they practiced that drill in case something wrong happens with them, how they are going to save themselves. Attached lifelines, right, on the radar and everywhere they attached their lifelines, that whom to send a message, SOS call in case they are going to drown in the sea. Donned oilskins and life jackets. They put on their life jackets and oilskins and waited for the weather to change. The first indication of the impending disaster came at about 6 p.m. and in the evening of January 2, an indication of disaster came. What happened? With an ominous silence. It was a bad omen. There is a complete silence in the sea. And when a complete silence comes over, is dawned on the sea, it is an indication that a storm is about to come. The wind dropped and the sky immediately grew dark. Why dark? Because it was overcast with clouds. Dark-bellied clouds. Then came a growing roar, and an enormous cloud towered aft of the ship. Now they were heading forward. They saw that a cloud was aft, means right in front of the ship. With horror, I realized that it was not a cloud, but a wave like no other I have ever seen. When they went forward, they could find out that no, it was not a cloud that they had thought. It was a huge wave which was standing right in front of them. It appeared perfectly vertical right in front of them and almost twice the height of the other waves, with a frightful breaking crest. Crest is the inner part of the wave, right? So it was about to break. The huge wave was about to break on the ship. This is what they saw on the deck. The roar increased to a thunder as the stern moved up to face the wave. The back part of the ship was moving to face the wave. It had to take a turn, and for a moment I thought we might ride over it. Initially the captain thought that they are going to ride over it, right? But then a tremendous explosion shook the deck. What was this explosion? Why this explosive sound came? Because the wave had already hit on the deck of the boat. A torrent of green and white water broke over the ship. My head smashed into the wheel, and I was aware of flying overboard and sinking below the waters. The poor fellow was struck by the forceful water, and now and then he went inside the water and then he came out, right? He was aware of flying overboard, sometimes overboard above and sinking below the waters, coming in and going out. I accepted my approaching death. Captain thought that his death was on the cards. It was about to come. As I was losing consciousness, I felt quite peaceful. Now he had also taken his death, very nicely. He knew that it is going to come. So he had also accepted it without any question and doubts. But then unexpectedly, my head popped out of water. Suddenly, fortunately, his face came out of water. A few meters away, wave walker was near capsizing. Capsizing means turning upside down. Her masts were almost horizontal. Mast is the pole. It should be vertical. It was horizontal, means it was running parallel to the surface of the water. Anytime the boat could turn over. Then a wave hurled her upright. Luckily, once again, another wave came and the wave hurled the boat upright. Seedhi ho gayi. My lifeline jerked out. I grabbed the guardrails and sailed through the air into the wave walker's main boom. What's the main boom, bache? It is the section of the boat or the ship where the ship is operated from. Okay, where you have all the basic things from which the boat is operated. So subsequent waves tossed me around the deck like a rag doll. I was treated like a doll of rags, cloth doll basically, by those waves, right? Naturally, those were so forceful. They did not know that it was a human being and he may die. Okay, so my left ribs cracked. The impact was also very harsh on his body. His ribs cracked almost. My mouth was filled with blood. Captain's mouth was filled with blood. broken teeth. Somehow I found the wheel, lined up the stern. Lined up means, put it into some shape, put it into some direction for the next wave, and hung on. And he waited to see what next is going to happen to them. Okay, so this far we are going to do today. In my next interactive session or in my Zoom session, we will continue with the lesson, dear children. This is your English teacher, Nishtha Dua. You may read the whole chapter once more again, and you can personally contact me on my number, which must be shared by your teacher. Thank you, children. Thank you so much.